Next, we welcome back Tracy Youngblom, an award finalist for writing poetry, fiction, and essays. We met Tracy last year after her son Elias survived a life-altering crash. Elias was hit by a drunk driver who was heading the wrong way on I-94. He suffered a lacerated liver, nerve damage, and broken bones which healed. But Elias would never see again. He's since learned to walk again, takes public transportation, teaches music, and is finishing up his degree. Tracy says she's written about Elias's accident and her writing has been inspired by other challenges her family has faced over the years. She joins us now to talk about her work. Tracy, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Yep. And so first, you've been writing for about 20 years, and just really, what keeps you going, and what does writing really offer for you?
Yeah, well, what keeps me going mostly is other people that I know, other writers. You know, either people that I'm in a writing group with, or people that I work with, or people that I can share work with online, because it can also feel like a really solitary thing when you're just sitting at home writing. So knowing that there are people out there who will respond, you know, eventually to what I write is great. But the other thing is, I mean, I enjoy it. So it's a challenge to me, and it's very rewarding. So it isn't hard for me to anticipate, you know, wanting to keep writing. I also just write a lot of different things. So I always have something going on. I have a lot of variety, so I never feel like I'm, you know, stagnant or, oh, I ran out of ideas.
Sure, you can use other themes or different methods. So.
Yeah, or different styles, prose or poetry, so yeah.
Okay. And some of the common themes I've noticed in some of your poems are animals and nature, observing animals, death, and then life on the farm and family. Just kind of how have those influenced you, and why are they important to you?
Yeah, well, I would say that my life experience is probably the source of all those themes. I mean, my grandparents had a farm, and I spent a lot of time there when I was very young, so all my early memories really have to do with that. And also the animals fit into that too, because it was a dairy farm, so there were all these, you know, cows around and chickens, and so and you know, I mean, not to be morbid, but also that, you know, as a child, in my experience, we had a lot of deaths in the family. My grandfather when I was quite young, my brother when I was 9, so, you know, I guess I just grew up kind of surrounded by all of those things. And I mean, exploring them in writing has been a way just to sort of, you know, not totally understand everything, but sort of process, you know, some of those early experiences that continue, I think, to shape me.
Sure. And one of the poems that I saw that kind of stood out to me was called Accidents, and just deals with survival and sort of the inability to always avoid danger. Yeah. How has this poem kind of changed meaning or affected you differently since Elias's crash?
Yeah, I think when I wrote that poem, the accidents that I were referring to obviously were earlier in life, and things that I felt like couldn't have been prevented. Like, you know, my brother died from an accidental fall. And so at the time, I felt like I remember thinking, oh, I don't have to walk around worrying that something terrible is going to happen. So I was, you know, trying to figure out how to live without that worry, but that you can't always avoid it. And then after Elias's accident, I mean, to me, it's a different kind of a worry, just because that obviously could have been prevented because it was a drunk driver. So my feelings about that, you know, have been different. In some ways, that was harder for me, you know, and harder to move past it because, you know, I have no control over other people's actions. And that, to me, that's harder to come to grips with, and thinking, oh, life is, you know, sometimes accidents are going to happen.
Initially, after the crash, obviously there are a lot of things on your mind. When you did kind of remember this poem, what were your thoughts of looking back on that?
Well, part of me thought, like, a little bit of dread, like, oh my gosh, like, this is my life. I have to be always experiencing these horrible things. But I got past that, and I just thought, well, it was a really different experience. And in contrast to where we lost my brother, we didn't lose Elias. And so mixed in with all those other feelings, I was just so grateful. You know, everything doesn't have to end in the worst tragedy imaginable, and I keep that with me now all the time.
Another poem that stood out for me was called Tired, which kind of showed an appreciation for nature and the environment over technology. So I was just kind of wondering, what are you hoping that the reader would take away from that poem?
Yeah. I'm not trying to make a political statement, but for me, you know, the things that kind of keep me energized and motivated don't have to do with technology. They really do have to do more with connecting with the natural world. And nothing, is more invigorating to me than a good hike, in the woods, and just to observe what's going on in the natural world. That's always been true. And I guess in contrast to technology, I use it, it's a tool, but I have a smartphone and I hardly ever use it. The smartphone cable, like I have it because it's a convenience. So I don't, it's just a really different function in my life. And sometimes, like I think the poem talks about usefulness or alludes to that. I just find the natural world so much more useful in helping me, think as a person and live in the world as a person, other than technology, which, like I just said, is just a tool to me.
Sure. And you're also facilitator in an adult writing group.
Yeah.
How does that work, and what do you try to share and do with that?
It's just really been a great experience. So the group came about because I taught a community ed writing class, and these students wanted to keep meeting after the class. And so I said yes, it was great. And so we've been meeting for at least three years now, and it's just a great opportunity, first of all, to encourage other people who want to write, to give them a deadline. Okay, we're going to meet this time next month, and to really see what people who maybe don't have great aspirations, to be famous writers, what they're writing about, what they're thinking about. It's just really rewarding to me to even be involved in a group like that. And I always come away feeling like, like what that person wrote about, I hadn't thought about that. I could write about that from my own perspective. And they're just a tremendously diverse group too. And I just think it says something about writing too. Anybody can be called to try to capture something, in words. It's one way to kind of hang on to it.
And if people are interested, where can they find your work?
Yeah, well, I have a book of poems called Growing Big, which you can get from Amazon.com, or you can actually get it from the publisher, North Star Press, or it used to be at the Barnes & Noble in Northtown. Other individual poems and work, a lot of times if you just Google my name, you can come up with, some journals just have poems accessible online. You can find my work there.
Great. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.